Hello and welcome to our cozy corner of English stories. Today, let's settle in for a story about a young woman named Clara and her journey to understand a very important language, the language of her own body. Clara was a whirlwind of activity. Her life in the bustling city was a constant race against the clock. From the moment her alarm blared at dawn, she was on the move. She worked as a graphic designer at a fast-paced agency, a job she loved but which demanded long hours and intense focus. Her evenings were just as packed, filled with gym sessions, social events, and online courses to advance her skills. Clara believed that to be successful, she had to be busy, always pushing, always achieving more. Her friends admired her energy. "Clara, you're a machine," they'd say, watching her juggle a work project on her laptop while planning a weekend trip on her phone. Clara would just smile and say, "Sleep is for the weak." It was a joke, but a part of her truly believed it. She saw rest as a sign of failure, a wasted opportunity. Lately, however, her body had started to send her little messages. It began with a persistent, dull headache that would arrive around 4 in the afternoon. She dismissed it as eye strain from staring at her computer screen and just took a painkiller. Then her sleep became restless. She'd fall into bed, completely exhausted, but would wake up multiple times during the night, her mind still racing with to-do lists and project deadlines. "Just stress," she told herself, and started drinking chamomile tea before bed, hoping it would solve the problem. One Tuesday morning, Clara woke up with a strange feeling. Her body felt heavy as if it were made of lead. Getting out of bed was a struggle. She looked in the mirror and saw dark circles under her eyes that her concealer couldn't quite hide. At work, she felt foggy and unfocused. The bright colors on her screen seemed to hurt her eyes, and the usual creative spark she felt was gone. She made several simple mistakes on a design, something that rarely happened. Her boss, a kind man named Mr. Henderson, noticed. "Clara, are you feeling all right? You seem a bit off today." "I'm fine, just a little tired," she replied, forcing a smile. But she wasn't fine. Her body was trying to tell her something more serious, but she wasn't listening. The whispers from her body grew louder. She started getting colds more frequently, her stomach was often upset, and the joy she once found in her busy schedule was fading, replaced by a constant low-level anxiety. She was like a driver in a car with the check engine light blinking, but instead of stopping to see what was wrong, she just turned up the radio and drove faster. The turning point came on a Friday. Clara was rushing to meet a tight deadline for a major client. The pressure was immense. She had skipped lunch to save time, surviving on coffee and a chocolate bar. As she clicked send on the final email, a wave of dizziness washed over her. The room began to spin, the edges of her vision blurred, and she had to grip her desk to keep from falling. Her heart was pounding in her chest like a drum. She felt a profound, bone-deep exhaustion that she couldn't ignore anymore. This time she was scared. This wasn't just being a little tired. This was her body screaming for help. That weekend, instead of her usual packed schedule, Clara did something radical. She canceled everything. She turned off her phone notifications, put away her laptop, and just stopped. On Saturday morning, she didn't set an alarm. She woke up naturally when the sun streamed through her window. It was almost 10 o'clock. At first, she felt guilty for sleeping so late, but then she noticed something. The headache was gone. She felt a quietness in her mind that she hadn't experienced in years. She decided to take a walk, not a power walk for exercise, but a slow, aimless wander through a nearby park. She noticed the way the sunlight filtered through the leaves, the sound of children laughing, the smell of freshly cut grass. She sat on a bench and just breathed. She didn't check her email. She didn't plan her week. She just sat. That afternoon, she cooked a real meal for herself, not something quick and easy, but a nourishing vegetable soup, filled with color and flavor. As she ate, she savored each spoonful. She realized she couldn't remember the last time she had truly tasted her food, without also scrolling through her phone or watching a video. This quiet weekend was a revelation. Clara realized her body hadn't been betraying her. It had been trying to protect her. The headaches, the sleepless nights, the constant colds, They were all signals, warning signs that she was pushing too hard, that her system was overloaded. She had been treating her body like a machine, but it wasn't a machine. It was a living, breathing part of her that needed care, rest, and attention. The following Monday, Clara went to work with a new perspective. She started taking a proper lunch break away from her desk. She left the office at a reasonable hour, even if her to-do list wasn't completely finished. She learned to say no to some social invitations, choosing instead to have a quiet evening at home, reading a book, or taking a warm bath. She discovered that rest wasn't a sign of weakness, but a vital part of being strong and productive. Interestingly, her work improved. With a clearer mind and more energy, she was more creative and efficient. Her ideas were fresher, and she made fewer mistakes. Mr. Henderson commented on her renewed energy. "It's good to have the old Clara back," he said with a smile. Clara smiled back genuinely. "It's a new and improved version, actually," she said. She learned to listen to the subtle cues her body gave her. A feeling of tightness in her shoulders meant she needed to stretch and take a break. A craving for fresh fruit meant her body needed vitamins. A feeling of mental fatigue meant it was time to put away the screens and do something with her hands, like gardening or painting. Claire's life was still full, but it was no longer a frantic race. It was more like a dance. She learned to move with the rhythm of her own energy, pushing forward when she felt strong and resting when she needed to recover. She understood that being productive wasn't about how many hours you worked, but about the quality of energy you brought to those hours. And that quality came from listening to the quiet, wise voice of her body, which always knew exactly what she needed. And so Clara found a new kind of success, one that wasn't measured in accomplishments or busy schedules, but in a feeling of balance, health, and quiet joy. Thank you for joining me for this story. I hope it inspires you to listen to your own body's whispers. Until next time, take care and goodbye.